Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got former Outlaw member and former Hells Angel member, Bob and PeeWee. So you cannot have a patch whatsoever out in New Zealand. They
Well, I know in Canada, bro, I know that Angels up there told me that they labeled them a criminal organization.
But see, this is the hard part about this criminal organization thing. The cops labeled them a criminal organization, but they've never had. No, they had one. They've only had one member, and they told them to plead guilty to it. Then they'd fight it on the charter, but they've never been convicted of being a criminal organization. They've just been labeled one by the cops.
Okay.
So every time. That's why I don't do the police stories, because, like I said, I don't want to further their story, because every story in the paper says, the Hells Angels, a known criminal organization. That's how they word it.
Right.
Every time. Or else they call it a gang instead of a club. They love
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly not a gang. It's clearly not a gang.
Well, right? somebody, and Bob will agree with me, some of these clubs are.
It's like Hollywood said, if you don't want to be called a gang, stop doing gang stuff.
That's a good saying, bro.
You know what I mean?
And then they got that, like there was a big situation that just happened with the Vagos and the Mongols.
And now they're all buddies again, I heard.
Yeah, I heard they had a little agreement going on now, a little peace thing.
Yep.
But allegedly, 2 Mongols shot and killed the Vago because of the patch. They were like, you got to respect our patch or something like that in a bar.
Jeez. So it's and that's what happens. Like even down in Sturgis, you'll hear the story gets back out of the woodwork that so some guys, 4 or 5 guys from the Hells Angels grabbed a couple outlaws that were straggling and knuckled them. But it doesn't really hit the papers. But that's another reason to put an end to all the talks that were going forward. And maybe these guys just done it because something was said in the bar. Maybe they just done it because they felt like it.
But look what happened with Little Dave. Okay, Little Dave gets sucker punched in the face. He's no longer part of the club. So what? That beef carries on and it keeps going?
I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, when will it end, right?
Well, that's it. It's been going
stupid.
So
here's what I see. Here's what I see happening, Pop. I see, because now the Banditos, they're getting along real good with the Angels, and they're becoming pretty good close friends. And if the Outlaws, become, I don't know if they can ever coexist with, like 2 bulls in a pen. They got to bump heads all the time. But if they could do that with the Bandits, because right now, if you look and see the Vagos and the Mongols and the Pagans, they're all like grouping up, Yeah. It's almost like getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The only ones I never ever see that often, like take alliances, is the Outlaws very often. They seem to always want to hang out by themselves.
Right.
And with the Outlaws and the Hells Angels, because of the history of the clubs, neither of those clubs will ever say, okay, we'll put down our stuff and put yours on. It'll just never happen. It'll have to
it's going to be a wild summer. I'm telling you.
It's got to be a coexistence thing, like you said.
And you know what, Bob? When they took over the Dirty Dozen, there was like over 100, 140 of them, wherever it was. There's like 3 left. 3 left of the original guys. And remember when...
where'd all them guys go?
Bro, they ran them off left and right. I've seen some of those guys I've seen some of them get beat up at officer meetings for no reason, man.
Yeah.
No, why do you think that snitch had the Dirty Dozen pictures over his?
Because I think they were more proud of being, I honest to God, a guy just reached out to me. He said I was a Hells Angel for 2 years. I didn't care for it. I quit. But I was a Dirty Dozen for 24 years. Yeah. And his name is Lonnie. And I was just like, wow, that's a trip. And he just hit me up on Facebook, and he was talking to me, and he just said it wasn't for him. We took over when we made the Hell's Henchman prospect, and they became full patch members. You know, they were in the Midwest there, so they were fighting with the Outlaws all the time. And I don't know, I think 3 funerals I went to down there, but those guys were fighting all the time. And out of those original henchmen, only 2 I know, 3 are left.
They're still there.
Yeah,
three out of like
club.
80 some of them. Huh?
The whole club almost dissolved, right?
They dissolve them. They deteriorate them, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I say with all them small clubs in Ontario that they took over, same thing. They started with 500, and then they get rid of the ones that they don't want, and they don't want that many guys anyway. But I still think
Yeah, but so when they patch over these guys, does the club no longer exist? Is that it?
No, club's done.
Most cases.
Can anybody resurrect it? Has it happened before where they resurrect?
Yeah, the rock machine still exists. They came back to life in Canada.
Right, but I don't think like what Billy's saying, Bob, I think is like if a club wanted to go to the Outlaws or go to the Hells Angels and become that.
Yeah.
Like when I was in the Sinners, the Outlaws said if we had our patches and we would become Outlaws in Milwaukee. But we hung around with them for like 10, 15 years. Even before I joined, they were hanging out since the 60s.
I'm surprised you guys never joined.
Well, at that time, I told you that one guy I couldn't stand. There's no way I would be in a club with him.
Yeah.
I didn't meet the Angels till 91. You know what I mean? And and I had the club built up pretty much, the Sinners. And then I just says, I think I'm going to do this. And they just looked at me and said, we know you don't hate us, bro. You just outgrew us. And that's mainly what it was,
Yeah. You wanted more. See, then that's the one thing about the club that I was fortunate enough to get involved in. So I had to go on the run because they wanted me to be a witness at the murder trial for the 2 outlaws that got shot. So they wanted me to be a prosecution witness. By that time, I was a full patch outlaw. So I was like, I'm not doing this. So I jumped on a plane and went to England and lived in England for 8 months and patched in 3 clubs in England. So all of a sudden, after I went home, there was a bunch of AOA outlaws in England. And that was because of me. So that was pretty cool.
Expanding horizons.
I got to see like that because a lot of guys get stuck in their own chapter and they think the whole world is that city that they happen to live in, right?
Right. And I tell people too, I says, who are the guys who are doing 30, 40, 50 years in the club? And Bob will admit to this. Those are the guys that never leave the city. They always hang out at the clubhouse. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
We call them in the club jams, just another member. And you know what? The guy never goes anywhere. You run into him at a bar or you run into him at the clubhouse and you go, hey, man. And he says, I'm a 20-year member. You're like, I never even seen this guy.
Yeah, movers and shakers end up getting either quitting or.
Well, because it's so hard to go from country to country. None of us can go to Australia.
None of us can.
None of the Americans can come to Canada. I can't go to America. You know what I mean? I can go. I
can't come to Canada. And you know where else too, Bob? Is Croatia. When I went to Croatia, I got there. As soon as they found out I was a convicted felon, told me to beat it.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, we could stand at the border and we could be like, "Hey, what's up?" Right? Right at
yeah.
Especially in Canada, because they're walking across again on the east side of Canada into Quebec again. They started back up again this spring.
Oh yeah.
I think a bunch of the illegals from the States that don't want to get sent back to Honduras are heading north. Yeah, they're coming. Yeah. We're not getting them in numbers like you guys got them.
Wow. That's crazy.
I still can't believe they had millions of people walk into a country and just wander on in. That's insane.
They just let it happen. It's crazy.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
They're sweeping them up now. You go around and yell, ICE. You see a bunch of people run.